Leslie Wexner, Leon Black, Jess Staley. These are people who are mentioned in there. You're innocent until proven guilty in this country, but there's enough information there that there need to be investigations.
Khanna and Thomas Massie are dropping the sequel that we've all been waiting for. After a sorry showing in front of Congress yesterday, Todd Blanche is forced to answer for his ineptitude. It's getting harder and harder for him to protect his slimy orange boss, who's taking more L's than a subway station. And Khanna isn't letting up.
So aren't they just doing the bidding of Donald Trump, and isn't he the one that doesn't want this to come out?
Well, I think he has been trying to protect his friends like Howard Lutnick, who, it's obvious now, he was a bald-faced liar. Just weeks before we got the files released, he was saying he had never had anything to do with Epstein after his first interaction. And now we see he took his kids, his whole family, to the island for lunch. So I think he's still trying to protect some of his friends. And we just need to get it all out there. But more importantly, there are enough names in there. You know, Leslie Wexner, Leon Black, Jess Staley. These are people who are mentioned in there. You're innocent until proven guilty in this country, but there's enough information there that there need to be investigations like there have been across the world. I mean, there's the Prince of England is no longer a prince. The ambassador from Britain to the United States is now gone. The former prime minister of Norway is being investigated. It's happening everywhere except for the United States. And I do think the president's been an impediment. But I agree with the first lady when she says that Epstein did not act alone. And so we need to investigate these things. There need to be prosecutions, not just getting this out there. We've got enough stuff out there now to have the prosecutions. And that's what this 2.0 is about doing. It's letting the state attorneys general do the job that the U.S. attorney general will not do.
It's no secret that Trump only signed the first Epstein Transparency Act because the eyes of the nation were on it. Well, that's why we have to keep our eyes on the second Epstein Transparency Act, too. God knows he only does the right thing when he's forced to. Otherwise, him and his stooges are somehow allowed to blatantly break the law, and instead of being arrested, a senator will just bargain with them.
I have not made a final decision. But Mr. Blanche said very quickly yesterday that he would meet with the victims, the Epstein victims, today, if it could be arranged. Well, right now, the markup, if you all don't know procedure here, after this hearing is done today, next week we'll hold it over. The earliest possible markup would be 2 weeks from now. And because it seemed to me that Mr. Blanche was willing to say that he would meet with them and counsel. I understand the restriction that counsel has to be present. I expect that meeting to occur before I'm willing to vote out of this committee. And I'm trying to get to yes, but this is a very important part of getting to yes.
So after a year of lying and saying that they've already met with all of the survivors, Blanche is meeting with more survivors who he ignored before, but only after Republicans who weren't up for re-election finally grew some semblance of a spine. Just a few vertebrae of courage, but that was enough to get something done, which just proves that the GOP are not inept, they're malicious.
But I'm curious what you made of the performance yesterday, first, of acting Attorney General Todd Blanche, who wants to become the Attorney General.
No, he's been the biggest obstacle to transparency and justice for the survivors. I mean, he still hasn't released 3 million documents. Most of the documents he hasn't released have the names where survivors have identified in the F-302 forms the men who abused or trafficked them. He still, shockingly, hasn't met with the survivors. And I don't understand any logic of why he wouldn't meet with survivors with their lawyers. It makes no sense.
The Republicans are dead set on being known for hiding Trump's love of prepubescence. We're talking about a man who was just forced to pay a woman who he raped. And he's the president. Why do the Republicans even pretend like anyone takes their little charade seriously? Do they think that we don't hear people like Liz Oyer?
2 days after Mr. Blanche was confirmed as Deputy Attorney General, he fired me from my position as the department's career pardon attorney. I declined to rubber stamp a political favor for a friend of the president, and it cost me my job. Mr. Blanche's office had asked me to recommend restoring the gun ownership rights of a convicted domestic abuser. I raised concerns about public safety, but Mr. Blanche's staff pressured me to go along anyway. I did not.
If you needed any more proof that the Republicans are working day and night to protect predators and criminals, well, just check this out. The wanted traffickers, Andrew Tate and his effeminate brother, who I guess shaved his head, are meeting with representatives in Washington, D.C. And we only know this because of this photo getting leaked. Who knows what other backroom alpha male toxicity they were able to inject into our government.
I want these guys on it, but you know what's going to happen? The guys that don't need it are going to take it to triple boost.
Right.
And then they're going to get out there, and women on base, you guys better be careful. Port calls, women in Asia, you better be careful, because these guys are going to be wild animals, and you better watch out.
Hear that, women of the world? Trump is sending high-T rapists to your country. That is the sort of dribble that is filtering up from Fox News, the birthplace of Pete Hegseth. This obsession they have with gender and sex has all the hallmarks of repressed, well, you know.
There are so many people in this administration that have some weird, like, intense homoerotic feelings towards men while also being incredibly homophobic, and not just homophobic, but like hate-mongering, fear-mongering about the LGBTQ community. So let me be clear. I don't think the homoeroticism is the weird part. The weird part is that they pretend that that's not what it's about. And so Pete Hegseth is like the example of this, like the manly, rugged, macho man. And it's like, I don't know if you know who Tom of Finland is. Tom of Finland, okay? This is a gay male porn that was drawn by a man. And like Pete Hegseth is the embodiment of that. So I feel like they must be looking at that.
Instead of just being open about who they are and letting those beautiful complexities of life exist, MAGA makes their rejection of reality everyone else's problem, to the point where victims need to double tap the DOJ in order for them to do their jobs. Here's Thomas Massie explaining the bill. It gives the victims standing to sue the Attorney General to get their own records, their own testimony in these 302 forms. It also gives congressmen standing to enforce this law, he explained. Basically, to get in front of a judge to say, "Judge, here's where they've overly redacted these files." Now, it is a shame that it had to get to the point where the law has to force the Justice Department to give victims justice. But when there's criminals in the White House, the law carries about as much weight as Trump can. Subscribe to U.S. Democratic Socialists and check out your local DSA chapter. I'm Tony Hinderman, and I'll catch you next time.